When you speak about creating cultures where anyone can thrive, the first thing that comes to mind, in my opinion, is gender equality. Thankfully, this panel today is consisting of 7 women. And I think women don't need empowerment because this is something they take for themselves. Like, they claim that, and it's never dependent on anybody to give them. However, there are still organizational cultures that are nurturing gender inequality, or actually operating with no clear-cut, I would say, philosophies or cultures that are nurturing, that are positive for the people who are working within them. So Dr. Niloofar is an expert on both philosophy and gender equality. And I don't think there's any philosophy in the world that is publicly adopted by anyone and which promotes inequality. However, in practice, we see the gender equality gap. But I'd like Dr. Niloofar to tell me how this is related to corporate culture and how practically can we change that? How can we create places where anyone can thrive by creating cultures? There's a process to that, and Dr. Niloofar, I would love you to speak to us about how we do it.
Thank you, Roger. It is wonderful to be here, and thank you for asking me to speak. I'd like to just start off with a question, actually. I'd like to ask everyone, what is the #1 killer in organizations? And that will kick off our talk here. What is the #1 killer? Would anyone like to guess? It's just one word.
Lack of communication.
Lack of communication, very good, that's very close. In fact, they call it silence. Silence is the #1 killer in organizations. And why is there silence sometimes? People not speaking out their thoughts, their ideas, what they think is wrong or should be done.
Fear.
Fear, very good. Fear is there, and also because there's no trust, there's lack of trust. People are worried about being blamed, about speaking out, because the last time I said something, they pointed the finger at me. So there's that fear and lack of trust. So when we talk about culture, I think the foundation or the irrigation system within a culture is trust. But let's go to what culture really means. I mean, the word culture is used a lot, but what it foundationally means is what most people do most of the time. That's culture. What most people do most of the time. So if you want to find out what is the culture within our organization, within our family, within our society, what do most people do most of the time? If people speak out, if people, as Nusha was wonderfully saying, that people are comfortable bringing out their thoughts and ideas to her, then she has created a culture of trust. She has created a culture of open communication. So trust is that irrigation system. Now, to bring it to gender equality, I just want to quote a beautiful quote that talks about gender equality and why we need it. Why should we bother with it? And the quote says, the world of humanity has 2 wings. One is women and the other men. Not until both wings are equally developed can the bird fly. Should one wing remain weak, flight is impossible. So if you think of gender equality within an organization like the 2 wings of a bird, if that organization wants to fly to higher heights and achieve things, gender equality is vital for that organization. And when I say organization, again, the definition of organization is 2 or more people working together for a common purpose. So we think of organizations as companies, but a family is also an organization because it's 2 or more people coming together for a common purpose. A football team could be an organization, 2 or more people coming together for a common purpose. So gender equality, when we say in organizations, is really wherever 2 or more people come together for a common purpose, they will benefit from gender equality. And to make gender equality part of the culture, we've got to see what do most people do most of the time. Do they respect each other? Do they listen to each other? Do they open up to each other? Is there that level of trust? Are women given the opportunities men are given? And when we talk about gender equality, most important thing is not what women are doing, is what are men doing? What are men doing to promote the opportunities for women, to help women as their equal? So what is leadership doing, whether they're women or men? What is every single employee doing most of the time? And that reflects what the culture of that organization is. I could go on about this forever, Roger. I don't know how many minutes I have here, but where's Roger?
I'm here.
Okay.
Dr. Niloofar, so let's say we go to a company and that company doesn't have that culture. Can we create it? Is it possible? And
absolutely, yeah. So, first of all, you need to think about, you need to decide what your ideal company culture would look like. And Nusha was saying involving everyone. And I just want to give you a rule of thumb, which is the level of involvement equals the level of commitment. The level of involvement always equals the level of commitment. If you involve everyone, they are committed to what they have created. So when you decide what is your ideal company culture, what does it look like, what do we want our culture to be, that really requires the involvement of everyone. Then you compare ideal company culture to the existing one. You can compare it. You say, this is what we have right now. Where do we want it to be? And then you look at where the gaps are. And of course, throughout this, you ask for employee input. You promote the work-life balance to reduce stress. And I think this is something the pandemic has taught us with the new way of working. We've realized that work-life balance is possible and it does not take away from the productivity that we have at work as well. And we need to make sure employees know what the expectations are. Oftentimes, you see that organizations have a wonderful list of values and mission, and the employees, the best that will happen is that they can recite them for you. But do they really understand it? Do they really know how their day-to-day work reflects those values and that mission of the organization? And that is the culture. Again, if most people are living those values, the value, for example, of transparency, of trust, of customer service, whatever your values may be, if people are living that all the time, then you've created the culture. So maybe it's just going back to basics. I'm sure every company has a wonderful set of values and mission statements, but to really ask, to what extent are we living these? Not know these, but living it. Truly understanding, internalizing, believing in it, and living it every day that I come to work. So those are basic steps to look at the company culture. And of course, at the end, I would say, really recognizing employee achievements. That should be part of the culture as well. And happy employees becomes happy productivity. The level of employee satisfaction always equals productivity within the organization. So that's also important. So when people work in an environment where they believe in the values and the mission, and that has become a culture for them, then they bring their all to work every day. How many of us can really say we get out of bed every morning saying, yes, today I'm going to work. Yes, another day at work. I can't wait to get there. How many of us truly do that? Do we really have passion for what we do? And that company culture is a big part of that. Company culture brings you to work. It really has you believe in what you do. And that makes all the difference.
Thank you, Dr. Niloofar.
Thank you.